The new thing now is to twist Martin Luther King to say, what? I want to be colorblind. I'm just judging by the content of your character. Why is that wrong? And isn't it to deny me my place at Harvard and force me to go to University of Michigan?
Tough.
You know, and what you want to say is like, what do you think would be the negative impact of you not getting that opportunity? Do you think it would have any consequence? And if they say yes, then it's kind of over, because all you have to say is, right, it has impact.
Yeah, and
that's such a stupid point. It's a bafflingly stupid point that he just made, which is weird. Because he's saying, like, do you understand like the argument he just laid out there?
Not
he said it kind of
bit.
obtusely.
Yeah.
Okay. He said that, first of all, he criticizes his colorblindness.
But he
again,
didn't really finish any of that.
Didn't finish the thought there, though. You know, and again, Jon Stewart, like all the fucking other mainstream left people, don't have any clue that what the new left is advocating for is not, they're not just advocating for affirmative action policies like John thinks they are, which is why he went to the college story. They don't want colorblindness as a goal, as an end goal. They think an end goal of colorblindness is bad, and John doesn't understand this because he's living in a fucking bubble. But his point was, oh, we should have affirmative action policies. And if you have an affirmative action policy for college admissions, where they say, where, you know, they can only let in so many white people or Asians, as you know, we know happens.
They're the ones getting completely discriminated against.
Right. And he said, oh, if some white person complains and says, well, why should I lose out on going to Harvard? You know, I'm not racist. I have nothing to do with any of this stuff. And then Jon Stewart said, well, you just tell them, do you think you think not going to Harvard is going to affect your life negatively in some way? And if they say yes, then you just equate that to and say, well, look at all these black people that life are negatively affected by not getting to go to Harvard. Okay. That was his point. That's a dumb fuck point, because the response is, well, I worked hard to go to Harvard. Okay. When you talk about these affirmative action quota policy numbers, no one's saying that Harvard isn't going to, you know, look at black students that have whatever the GPA and SAT requirements are. They're talking about lowering the standards for different ethnic groups, in order to achieve a specific number racial balance.
Yes.
That's what they're discussing when they talk about these programs. And so the person responds to John by saying, well, why I worked hard, you know, I worked hard to do this just because I had the fortune to be born into a family that was richer or smarter genetically, you know, because that's generally people that go to these fucking high level schools anyway. No one cares about all the poor and, you know, average to below average intelligence white people, you know, running around. But, you know, why should I be penalized for my fortune to someone else who was not as fortunate to me? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I don't really understand how that affects the argument at all. Like the standards, they've made the standards to get into Harvard extremely high because they have high demand, obviously. But there are certain racial categories that are like, they're going to work harder. This is why Asians fucking dominate Harvard, because they have a culture at home that is just, I mean, don't have a social life, study all you do. You're like a study machine, and nobody wants to compete with that. But they're basically saying that we have to compete with, I mean, if Jon Stewart wants to make an argument against meritocracy, sure, let's hear it.
That's what he's doing, though. That's what he's doing.
To some extent, though, I mean, it's, you've built a system where, you know, people want to go to the top, you know, the top surgeon has gone to Harvard because, you know, Harvard is synonymous with perfectionism.
Right.
So that's why they pick this person, or, you know, this financial advice, whatever it is, you know, when we're out to get the top of the meritocratic heap. Yeah.
And not only do I not want to live in society where the best achievers have access to, creating the best businesses and jobs going forward. That's what society should be promoting for people.
Mm-hmm.
You want your best achievers, your smartest people to be productive citizens within your society.
Mm-hmm.
But also, a lot of studies, and what's his name always brings this up, but he always gets in trouble. The bell curve guy.
Yeah, Charles Murray.
Yeah, he always brings up that these studies that follow, when they take people and they lower requirements for them based on, race or class or something.
They do worse, yeah.
And they push them in schools that, under a lower criteria, they always do worse because everyone else in school is participating at a much higher level. Yeah. And then you end up screwing them over. Because then that's like they end up having a much higher dropout rate.
Yeah. They're basically, taking a decent high school basketball player and dropping him in the NBA, and they're like, holy shit, I can't fucking compete. What the fuck? I'm demoralized. This is awful. Then they drop out and they never go back to school again. If they did go to Michigan State, they would be the fucking superstar.
Right. Exactly.
They would be the Michigan State superstar, but they're like, nah, I can't be the Michigan State superstar. What? That's like beneath me.
Yeah.
Why? That's another thing when he's saying, this is why I don't understand this part, because he's saying, he acts like every single white person wants to go to Harvard. What a fucking, what an elitist
I didn't want to go to
piece of
Harvard.
shit.
I knew I didn't have to. I was like, I don't have fucking chops to go to some fucking fancy Ivy League school. Get out of here.
I know one person that went to Harvard, and like I wasn't even really good friends with him or anything. Like nobody I knew wanted to go to Harvard. Like what the fuck?
Yeah, me neither.
Just you live in a bubble where every single person around you, because you're a rich fucking Hollywood elite celebrity, that all your white friends want their kids to get into Harvard. Okay, that's more a culture of money than it is a culture of whiteness. This is another reason why it's so offensive when Jon Stewart is going to sit around and talk about, white people. He's going to speak for white people. It's like, come on. Like, that's completely not fair, because the experience runs the gamut of all different types of class structures. It's stupid. And it's just, I don't know. It's not important. What does this make if the criteria is that in order for us to get past racism, everyone has to go to Harvard? We're not even having a fucking conversation here. I thought we were talking about doing some tangible good in the world. Okay. The guy who's turning to crack because he thinks the system is stacked against him is not thinking the system is stacked against me because I can't get into Harvard. Okay?
That guy, Adam, he was just one grade away from going to Harvard. You don't understand.
That guy has not studied for a test in his entire life because he's drank in the CRT stuff that racism is everywhere and it's pointless to study. I mean, why would you look? I was a kid. I know. Like there are much more fun things to do, especially now with video games. Oh my God. Like who wants to study? Who wants to pay attention in school? Nobody. Why would you give them a ready-made excuse like, oh, racism is everywhere and there's no point in studying or trying to get ahead anyway because it's just a nihilistic world out there that's going to demoralize you? Why would you give them that excuse?
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's bad for everyone. And it's easy for Jon Stewart to do it. Rich motherfucker. Elitist, classist piece of shit.
That impact is compounded and it's innumerable when it happens at a rate that went hundreds of years. It's exponential.
These are very, very clever and intelligent people here.
Deep thinkers.
I'm sure you're going to get a lot. I mean, comedy does require some intelligence. You have to actually remember the things that you said in order to call back to them.
When you get out of prison, they give you $10. When they freed slaves, they just went like, thank you for your service. And that was it. And then they were like, well, what do we do now? And then the same guy that was the master was like, well, I do have some jobs available.
Oh no, he's going fully anti-capitalist now.
Well,
Sad.
no, this is just more of the reparations. He's completely single fixated on the reparations thing, which again wouldn't even solve the problem under the CRT framework. And they actually, the CRT people could not admit, if any CRT person admitted that if they gave reparations back in the day to Black people, that would solve the problems or would make society substantially better today, then they would be admitting that their central thesis is wrong. Because how could American society be built and predicated upon, racism and white supremacy, and Black people do well in it by just giving them a bunch of money?
Oh yeah, that's a great.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I just also everything that they're talking about. I mean, there were a bunch of non-slave states, right? I mean, slavery was contentious going back to the founding of the United States. So, they made an agreement where they were going to let one slave state and one free state in because some people didn't want to have anything to do with slavery. Yet they're just talking like categorically the entire United States was a bunch of slave owners. Yep. Wrong, good sir. Yep. Yeah. And why would you throw literally the best Americans, right? The ones that didn't want to participate in slavery anyway. Why would you throw them under the bus with this jaded history like all fucking Americans?
All white people are the same. I don't know if you know this.
Okay. Yeah, it's racist. I don't like it.
My ancestors came in here from the 1900s, never owned slaves in their life, but it's all white people are the same.
Well, I would like to ask these woke people this shit. Like, what about those people? Do you think it's fair for us to throw those people under the bus who didn't participate in slavery and were actively against it, who started this institution called the Underground Railroad, where they would basically get political, what they categorized as, runaway slaves, political prisoners in the South to the North where they could be free? That doesn't count for anything. I mean,